And this is an update here on the Sears Craftsman. I got the latest lawnmower. Find that it's broken and cannot get it to start. It has a Briggs & Stratton 6.75 gross torque engine, 190cc. And in the last video you saw that it started and just started running slower and slower and just cut off. Cut off. I cleaned this up. It is in really nice condition. And I still cannot get this to start. So we're going to do a few things here. We're going to troubleshoot this as a carburetor and or flywheel key problem. We'll go ahead and take this cover off and go ahead and clean this gas tank out since it smells like really old gas, and take that carburetor apart and clean it. And I'm also going to take the flywheel off and check to make sure that flywheel key is good, and probably change the oil in this as well. That oil looks very thin in it. So we're first going to start here by taking this cover off. And the cover is now off. This engine is very clean. Got the little decorative cover off here as well. And this choke is not sticking. All that looks really good here. So now we're going to take the gas tank off. There are 3 5/16 inch bolts on the top, and there's another 3/8 inch underneath here as well. And we'll put a pair of vice grips on this gas line. Also get this air filter cover off. And now this gas tank is ready to come off. I got a pair of vice grips here, keep from losing any gas, and you can just move this to break loose the gas line onto the carburetor here. And now we'll put just a rag underneath here. Some gas is going to leak. See if we can pull this off. And there we go, just that easy. And we got the gas tank off. We'll go dump out all this old gas. And now we're going to remove this carburetor. We're going to first start by taking out this 1/4 inch nut here for the auto choke. The auto choke has been removed. And now we got 2 3/8 inch bolts to come out here. And disconnect our linkage and this carburetor will come off. The carburetor is now off. We just need to disconnect this linkage here. We got a little bit of gas coming out, and there is a carburetor off this Craftsman Briggs & Stratton engine here. We'll clean the outside off, and we're going to see what's inside here. And this is the gas that came out of the tank here. It actually looks okay. It just doesn't smell very good. It just smells very old. I don't see any trash in here or any water. And we got this carburetor clean on the outside. Now let's take this 1/2 inch bolt nut off here and see what we see inside here. It wasn't very tight. And that looks pretty good. And actually it looks pretty good inside here too. Maybe see a little bit of trash in here. Well, let's take this float out here. It looks really clean. We're going to clean this all out and then do a reassemble on this. And that little jet inside this bowl nut is clean as well. You can see right through it. Didn't really see any problems with this carburetor. Didn't really see anything wrong with this carburetor on this Craftsman Briggs & Stratton engine, so we're going to do a reassemble, and then we're going to check the flywheel key. First we're going to put in the float and needle. And now we'll put in the float pin. And now we'll put the float bowl back on and the bowl nut. And this carburetor is ready to be put back on the Sears Craftsman. And now that we got the carburetor off and we're going to clean that in the gas tank, we'll go ahead and take this cover off since everything is apart on this, and check the flywheel key. To get this cover off, there are two 3/8" bolts in the front here, and there are two in the back. We also have to loosen up this nut here, which is a 5/16" to get this dipstick away from the cover, and it'll come right off. And you want to keep these cover bolts organized because the ones in the front are much longer than the ones in the back. You don't want to mix them up. And I got all the bolts out, and I got this dipstick tube off, connected, kept the bolt in the cover. It should lift straight off. And there is our flywheel, and I'm going to check the flywheel key in here by removing this bolt here. First clean all this debris away. This cover's good. And we're going to take this flywheel nut off. This is a 5/16". We're going to take it off with an air gun. It's the quickest way to zip this thing off. There we go. And now let's pull this starter cup cover off. And there is our flywheel key. It actually looks pretty good, but I've already gotten this far. I may as well replace it while I'm here. And I've put the flywheel nut back on, and just a few little taps get this flywheel loose. There we go, popped just like that. And the flywheel is off. And that key is, I'm going to check it out here. That flywheel key looks good. We're going to go ahead and put a new one in here anyway. So nothing wrong with the flywheel key. And my lifetime supply of a quantity of 100 I bought many years ago is still holding up. So we'll put a new one of these keys in. And this flywheel is very clean. We're just going to drop this in, line this key up in this hole here. And there's our new flywheel key installed. And that's what the flywheel key should look like in there. We're going to do a reassemble, put the cover back on, then get the carburetor back on. And I actually put the carburetor on first since the cover was off, so I could make sure all the linkage is all connected. And the auto choke is not sticking. Everything's set up the way it should be. And now we can put the cover back on, and then the gas tank. And the cover's back on. Got the bolt in for the dipstick. Now let's put the gas tank back on. And the gas tank is back on, the Sears Craftsman Briggs & Stratton engine. And I've put some gas in the tank and see no leaks. That is a good sign. We'll go ahead and put the air filter housing back on, and the air filter cover and air filter. And then we can put the decorative cover back on. And this will be the first start of the Sears Craftsman after cleaning the carburetor on it, which I didn't really find anything in that carburetor. And while I had this gas tank off cleaning it, I checked the flywheel key. There was nothing wrong with that flywheel key as well. But what I did find is that oil looked very thin in it. So maybe they put some of the newer car oil in there, like a 0W, 20W, something very thin, because it almost poured out like water. It was just, didn't really look like the correct type oil that should be in here. So change the oil as well, and we'll need to still sharpen the blade. Let's give this a start here. Let me first show you the oil that I put in here. This is just a inexpensive HD 30 weight oil, which is what should be in these quantum type engines. So here we go. Let's see if that has corrected the problem with this Sears Craftsman. That sounds good. Sounds real good. Let's see if it burns any oil out of this muffler. Cut much, got to sharpen the blade. We'll let this run and see if this oil stops.